Welcome back. Not too long ago, the New York State Senate passed the Adult Survivors Act in support of survivors of abuse and assault. This move inspired our next discussion on support towards all survivors of abuse. Joining us for a discussion on the organization The Morris Center is Bo Smith, adult survivor of child abuse and an outreach and communications volunteer with the Morris Center for Healing from Child Abuse. Bo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you first just start off by telling me more about your organization, the Morris Center, and what they do in regards to survivors of abuse?
Sure. The Moore Center started just in 1991 by Dr. George Bellotta, who was initially just looking at focusing on survivors of childhood abuse that had sexual abuse and incest. In 1993, he developed that to, he hired Patrick Gannon, who's a clinical director or as a advisor to start a program for adult survivors of child abuse of all kinds of abuse, mental, emotional, or neglect. When that happened, Patrick decided that it'd be a good idea to have a self-help support group program. So he recruited volunteers in the San Francisco Bay Area. They had a meeting, came together, and actually developed what is now the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse Self-Help Support Group program. And in 1998, and just moving forward to be quick about this, we put everything online so that everything was accessible to people around the world to start and have their own self-help support group. So all the materials online, there's co-facilitator training was also developed, and that's also all done online, live and in person, and the organization is all run by volunteers.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, this conversation comes after the New York State Senate passed the Adult Survivors Act, and this legislation would create a 1 year window for the revival of time barred civil lawsuits based on sex crimes committed against individuals who were 18 years of age or older. Can we just use this as a moment to talk about the importance of this in regards to seeking justice?
Yeah, of course, I'm only speaking to my own abuse and witnessing, being in meetings over these years on about seeing abuse survivors. So that were abused as in childhood. So this is not about adults, but the importance of the ability to seek justice in the healing process is really can't be overstated. And the reason for that is, in my for my personal path, I would not be going that route. Both of my abusers are now dead, and so there would be no point in that. But let's say the abusers were not dead, and they were still in the survivor's life, and maybe even still abusing or threatening them or others. In that case, it would be very important, regardless of the amount of time that passed, if there's a known abuser abusing. And for a healing journey, which is what the Morris Center for Healing from Child Abuse is about in the ASCA program, if that option were not available, then basically the person would be again in a place of disempowerment where they didn't have that option, where the society and culture would not be supporting them. So in effect, it's kind of in support of abuse. It's in people are not, if our society and the culture that we live in are not providing a space for survivors to heal through whatever means for them for justice, to get justice, then it's basically another place of disempowerment where society is basically condoning that abuse and it going unchecked.
So, this comes just a few years after the Child Victims Act was passed in 2019. And similar to the Adult Survivors Act, for a brief moment in 2020 through 2021, the Act extended the statute of limitations regardless of age. With that being said, do you think the way we speak about assault and abuse as a society is changing?
Definitely, I do. And just in the last 10 years, and I think because of organizations like the Morris Center for Healing from Child Abuse that have, launched this topic online, and also seeing people being vocal. One of the things about childhood abuse is we don't talk about it. It's told, the abuser threatens, you don't talk about this, you never speak about this. Well, that's changing. I give a lot of credit to the social media movement in general, and then media like yourself taking the time to cover and have these conversations is very important. So yes, I definitely think the conversation's evolving. It has to do with creating safe and diverse spaces with multiple views and being tolerant to hear these things and to try to connect with our fellows. So the conversation has evolved also on a financial front. Um, Industry is realizing the cost of having survivors of child abuse or survivors of abuse that are experiencing a complex PTSD. It basically is, which all PTSD, complex PTSD is something different, a little different from PTSD, not a single event, but over a series of events over a long period of time, this complex trauma happens where it becomes part of the person's life and their thinking. So when they bring this into the workplace or into their society or their culture, these dysfunctions happen, these reactions happen. There's they freeze in certain situations, or they overreact, or can't read certain social situations the way that they could. So, so the conversations change for many reasons on many different fronts, and I see it to continue to evolve because we're also learning that it's not really limited to just a few people. It's quite a terrible, sad to say, um, normal occurrence, how we have treated our children in the past. And that's an evolutionary process, I think. We're learning that nurturing our children and teaching them to be loving and kind human beings, and raising them with words rather than with brutal force, and this idea of retribution and punishment. Which brings me to another movement, which is restorative justice, and we're learning how that works as well. So, yeah, many fronts. The very short answer is yes. I do believe the conversation is evolving, and I'm very happy about that. And it's two programs like this that are making that happen. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that too. And I agree with you. I see it all the time, especially on social media as well. So I want to say that seeking justice through the court system is obviously very important, but so is the emotional well-being of the survivor. You stated that your primary program is the Adult Survivors of Child Abuse Self-Help Peer Support Program. Can you tell us more about that program?
Sure. It's a 21-step, three-stage program, which sounds quite large and overwhelming, but the three stages are the remembering of the abuse, because again, and sort of to the topic of the program, the remembering can take years or decades to happen. It could happen because of some triggering event that happens. So this remembering process, where these uh, memories of abuse that have happened uh, over a period of time come to mind over a period of time, and it has to do with the environment we're in, if it's safe for these memories to come up. So the first, that part of remembering, and there's a lot of factors that go into how when that happens, and then the part of mourning. Once these memories are recovered, of course, there's a lot of sadness and grief, remembering how one has been abused and mistreated, and how the people that were to care for the person and were trusted to care for the person really have to grieve these wounds, which were not generally allowed in childhood. Well, we're not allowed, which is really part of the trauma, not allowed to express feelings, not allowed to be who they were in a sense, and have whatever feelings they're having. And then the healing stage, which is so different, and every stage is so different because there's a program. It doesn't mean that this is how a person recovers, and it's not in any way recommended by the Moore Center that someone has to go through these particular steps or to heal from their wounds from childhood abuse. But the actual healing part is stepping back into life and dealing with life situations, having one's voice, seeking justice. And again, after years of recovery, if there's no, like I said, for myself personally, seeking justice would not be part of my process for healing because my abusers are dead and I see, but for someone else, that could be a very, very important part of their process. And if that option weren't available, then that would be off the table. So it's about resolving those abuse in my own mind of how, and me being okay with it, or not okay with it, but me healing and being able to move on with my life and function in society the way I want to live, in short. Yeah.
And what can others do to support survivors?
Uh, yeah. Um, to listen. It's to listen and be with people, and to take them seriously, because these wounds of trauma, of CPT, no one can see them. They're invisible. It's not like you can see I have a broken hand or broken foot or some wound on the exterior of my body. These are all internal wounds, and the person on the outside, looks like everything is just fine. Even their life could be in order, and they in our society we measure success. We have these Facebook pages, and nobody puts up their misery. Everybody puts up their sadness, their hurts. I mean, or their happy times and their happy faces. And so those same people that have these personas that they're projecting, they're on the inside, they're suffering. And when these the first stage is I'm in a breakthrough crisis, remembering, it can really be shattering. And on the outside, one may be looking at the person and saying, I don't really, you have everything going for you. I don't understand, your health is there. Maybe your health is there. Maybe it's not there, but maybe your health is there. And so having empathy and compassion and having an open mind about, and being okay with not understanding and just being present with that person, guiding the person to help, professional help, and supporting them in that way, and asking them what they want to do instead of, again, directing them or putting onto them. There's the sort of the core of the program is to rediscover our own voice and ask and let them decide what they need, and then help and support them in doing that.
Bo, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Before you go, can you just let everyone know where they can learn more about your organization or join these programs?
Sure. Yeah. So you can go to our website, which is www.ask-us-support, and we're also on Facebook. But on our website, you can download materials to start your own self-help support group. There's help there for co-facilitating, coaching and training to be a co-facilitator of a support group. And yeah, that everything's right there online. It's free of charge. There's no cost for any material, any support group. Nobody will ever be approached for any monies. We do, of course, take donations though. So, but thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back with more Open BXRX Tuesday.